Alright, the other day, I was praying to God, and I asked God, I said, God, I was like, as I'm waiting for your return of your son, because I'm eagerly, waiting Jesus to come back, and I expect him back really soon, just like everybody else. And I'm really excited, as I sit here in my excitement, I was like, God, I was like, would you give me a dream and show me, somewhat of confirmation of, like, what's going to happen here soon, and, something. And I'm like, just to keep my mind focused, and just keep looking up. Well, I prayed about it, and it's like, you know, and then I read, some scriptures, and the Lord says, anything you ask in my name, He will give you if you believe. So I'm like, alright. I was like, if it's pertaining to His will, I'm like, alright. So I prayed to God. I was like, God, I said, would you give me a dream? Well, He did. And then later on that night, I went to bed, and I remember having this dream where I was standing on the ground, and I was looking up. When I looked up, there was a square in the sky, and inside the square, you see all the planets surrounding the sun. I seen all the planets, all of them, all surrounding the sun. And I had a thought come up in my head, and it said, count the planets. So I'm like, alright, so I got to number 1. And then I got to number 2. As soon as I got to number 2, my dream stopped, cut off. I'm like, alright. Well, the next day I woke up, I'm like, wow. I said, God gave me a dream. I was like, that's great. I was like, and I thanked Him for it, because God is great. He gave me a dream, and He didn't have to do that, but, I'm just like, it's so good. So I'm like, but what does it mean? So I'm sitting there thinking these last couple of days, I'm like, well, what does this dream mean? Well, then I'm like, alright, well, He gave me the number 2. And I'm like, and you have to go back to biblical standards, and if God gives you a dream, obviously, He's going to want you to dig and try to figure it out. Well, the number 2 sticks out in my mind, because He had me count the planets, and I got to the number 2. Well, I'm like, alright, well, let me go back to the Bible and get some answers. I'm like, first thing that popped in my mind, okay, well, go to the book of Genesis. I was like, what did God do, on the second day? Well, He separated the waters from the sky. It says, and God said, let there be an expanse between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the expanse, and He separated the water under the expanse from the water above it, and it was so. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, and that was the second day. I'm like, alright. I was like, but the key word is separate. As I'm looking at the ground, or as I'm standing on the ground, I'm looking up at the sky, and He asked me to count the planets where I get to number 2, and the key word in that is separate. And I'm like, I was like, so what's that mean? He's going to separate the church, from the ground to the expanse. I was like, I don't know. It's like, but to me, I was like, I can relate that to the rapture, and I was thinking, I was ecstatic. I was happy. I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, and I just give God all the glory and all the credit. Man, I was like, He's a great God, huh? I was like, yeah. I was like, even now, I was like, it just blows my mind that He'd even give me a dream. I don't know, but God bless all you guys. I love all you guys, man. Keep encouraged. It's almost time to go home.